The words slammed into my chest like ice water. Ava is embarrassing us. This year we make her face the truth publicly. I pressed my back against the hallway wall, my handmade gift box trembling in my arms as my father's voice continued, clinical and cold. The gold ribbon I'd spent an hour perfecting suddenly felt suffocating against my fingertips. My name is Ava. I'm 28 and a jewelry designer. This is the story of how I stopped begging to belong. Through the crack in the study door, I could see them huddled around my father's mahogany desk like generals planning warfare. My mother, Rachel, Adam, all perfectly composed, discussing my humiliation with the same tone they'd use for weekend plans. My knees nearly buckled when Adam flipped through printed pages and announced, I made charts comparing Ava's income to what she could earn in corporate. Charts. They had prepared documents for my destruction. When she sees the numbers on screen in front of everyone, she'll have nowhere to hide, my father chuckled, the sound scraping against my ribs. My vision tunneled as the weight of their betrayal settled. A screen presentation, in front of 30 relatives, on Christmas. My mother's voice sliced through the silence. Her little business is like macaroni art kids bring home from school. Cute at first, but ridiculous to cling to as an adult. Their laughter echoed off the study walls as something fundamental cracked inside my chest. Not my heart. That had been breaking for years. This was deeper, structural, like the foundation of who I thought I was splitting apart. This Christmas, my father concluded, she learns who she really is. But as I stumbled away from that door, box of gifts clutched against my racing heart, one thought crystallized with diamond clarity. No, Dad. This Christmas, I finally learn who you are. For 28 years, I'd been the Jameson family's beautiful disappointment, the daughter who traded corporate security for a cramped Brooklyn studio and calloused fingers, while Adam climbed investment banking ladders and Rachel collected promotions like trophies. I collected gemstones and hand-forged silver into pieces that sold for what my mother spent on a single dinner. The Fairfield mansion had been my fortress and my prison, filled with memories of childhood holidays when I still believed love was something you could earn through perfection. Every December, I'd return to that towering Christmas tree and crystal chandelier, carrying hope like an offering, praying this year they'd finally see me. But tonight, listening to them plan my public execution with PowerPoint precision, that hope finally died. I don't remember fleeing the house or starting my car. The mansion's golden windows blurred in my rearview mirror as I drove blindly through suburban streets that suddenly felt like escape routes. By the time I pulled into a highway rest stop, my entire body was shaking so violently I could barely turn off the engine. The phone call to Mia came through, choking sobs and fractured sentences. She listened as I repeated every cruel word, every calculated insult, every detail of their presentation plan. When I finished, her silence stretched so long I thought the call had dropped. Those aren't your people, she finally whispered, her voice thick with protective fury. Family doesn't destroy you for sport. What if they're right? The question scraped out of my throat. What if I'm just playing pretend? Ava, her tone turned steel sharp. You turned down wholesale orders last month because you were at capacity. You have a 3-week waiting list for custom pieces. Your work was featured in Design Weekly. That's not pretend. That's success they refuse to acknowledge. Her words cut through the fog of shame clouding my vision. I sat there in my tiny car, surrounded by highway noise and fluorescent light, as a new truth began forming. I wasn't the failure they'd convinced me I was. I was just the daughter they'd chosen not to see. The drive back to Brooklyn felt like shedding skin. Each mile stretched between me and the mansion created space for something I'd never allowed myself before. Rage. Not at my inadequacy, but at their blindness. Not at my choices, but at their cruelty. My apartment welcomed me with warm light and the cluttered evidence of a life I'd built from nothing. Sketches covered my walls alongside customer photos, wearing pieces I'd designed specifically for their stories. A magazine feature about emerging artists had my work on page 3. Order confirmations filled my email inbox from clients who treasured what I created. This wasn't failure. This was a business they'd never bothered to understand because understanding would have required admitting they were wrong about me. I pulled out my notebook and wrote at the top, "What I will do next." One by one, I listed my Declaration of Independence. I will not attend Christmas dinner. I will have my belongings retrieved legally. I will establish clear boundaries with consequences. I will celebrate with people who actually see me. I will say yes to opportunities without their permission. The last item felt like stepping off a cliff. I will succeed loudly enough that their denial becomes impossible. Christmas Eve arrived with Brooklyn blanketed in fresh snow, transforming familiar streets into something magical. Mia's cousin's Vermont cabin waited like a refuge. But first I had calls to make. When my mother's number flashed on the screen at exactly 7 p.m., 1 minute past the traditional cocktail hour, I let it ring 3 times before answering. "Where are you?" Her voice crackled with barely contained fury. "Not coming home," I replied, voice steadier than I expected. "Ava Jane Jameson, you will get in your car immediately. The guests are asking for you. Your grandmother, see, is asking for the granddaughter she knows from your stories, not the real me." I watched snow fall past my window like forgiveness. I heard everything, Mom. The presentation, the charts, the jokes about macaroni art, all of it, silence then. "You were eavesdropping." "I was walking to my room, the room you'd already emptied without telling me." Her breathing sharpened. "We were trying to help you face reality." "Reality?" I laughed, surprising myself. "Reality is that I make enough money to support myself doing work I love. Reality is that you plan to humiliate me for entertainment. Reality is that I don't need a family that treats me like their favorite disappointment." "There will be consequences." "Such as?" I cut her off. "Cutting me off financially? I pay my own bills. Taking away my room? Already done. Destroying my reputation? I don't need approval from people who don't respect me." The phone went quiet except for muffled voices in the background. My father asking what was happening, Rachel's sharp interjection, Adam trying to mediate. "This isn't over," my mother hissed. "It is for me," I whispered. "Merry Christmas, Mom." I hung up and immediately turned off my phone. After packing my bags and loading Mia's car, I drove through the night toward Vermont, leaving behind the Christmas that was supposed to destroy me for one that might actually save me. The Vermont cabin glowed like a sanctuary, smoke rising from its chimney into star-filled sky. But the real magic happened when I opened the front door and found them waiting. Noah from my first retail partnership, Claire from design school, Ryan who'd featured my work in his gallery, Caleb whose sister wore my necklaces like armor. Mia had quietly coordinated this gathering, knowing I'd need witnesses to my worth. "We figured you shouldn't spend Christmas alone," Noah said simply, handing me cocoa that tasted like friendship. For 3 days, we cooked chaotic meals and painted ornaments and told stories that had nothing to do with earning love through achievement. When my phone finally buzzed with messages, they weren't angry demands but surprise support from extended family who'd witnessed my empty chair and demanded explanations. Aunt Meredith. "Your gift is exquisite. I'm ashamed of what they planned." Cousin Lily. "Your jewelry made me cry. You're so talented." Grandmother Eleanor. "Call me, darling. What they did was unacceptable." The truth was spreading like ripples through our extended family. My absence had forced them to explain the presentation plan, and the relatives' horror had been immediate and vocal. My absence had created a vacuum they couldn't explain without revealing their cruelty. In the weeks that followed my Christmas awakening, everything began shifting into focus. 6 weeks later, I stood in my new studio, 3 times larger than my apartment corner, watching sunlight stream through industrial windows onto workbenches built for a team. Silver and Bloom's partnership had exploded my business overnight. Orders filled my calendar through summer. My phone buzzed with a message from Adam. "I was wrong about a lot. Can we talk?" For the first time, his words carried humility instead of superiority. I typed back, "When I'm ready. But thank you." 3 months later, I finally was ready, and we met for coffee near my studio. Adam's transformation was visible in his posture, his careful word choices, his genuine interest in my work. We talked for 2 hours about rebuilding trust slowly, about his need to examine his own values. It wouldn't happen overnight, but something real was beginning. My father continued sending spreadsheets suggesting I abandon my hobby for corporate stability until I blocked his email address entirely. My mother left voicemails requesting I apologize for causing tension until I changed my number. Their inability to acknowledge wrongdoing had made my decision for me. No contact was the only healthy choice. But I did drive to the mansion one final time in early spring, accompanied by Mia and my lawyer friend Ella, to collect my childhood belongings. Rosa, our longtime housekeeper, hugged me tight and whispered, "I hid your old tools when your mother tried to donate them. I knew they mattered." As I loaded the last box into my car, my mother appeared in the doorway. She looked smaller than I remembered, diminished somehow by the shadow of the house she'd built her identity around. "This could all be fixed if you'd just—" "No." I closed the trunk with gentle finality. "This was never broken, Mom. It was exactly what you designed it to be. I'm just not participating anymore." She stood there in stunned silence as I drove away from that mansion for the final time without looking back. That was our last conversation, her still demanding I conform to her vision, me finally choosing my own truth. Some relationships can't be repaired because one person refuses to acknowledge the damage they've caused. The girl who'd begged for scraps of approval was gone, replaced by a woman who'd learned to feed herself. That evening in my apartment above my thriving studio, I hung my childhood tools beside my professional equipment, past and future side by side. Mia texted, "Cabin next Christmas. Tradition starts now." I smiled, typing back, "Every year, I'll bring the ornaments." Outside my window, Brooklyn hummed with the lives of people building something real from their own hands and hearts. I thought of the family that had rejected me and the family I'd chosen, the Christmas that had broken me and the Christmas that had remade me. I'd spent 28 years learning to be small enough to fit into spaces that were never meant for me. Now I was finally learning to be exactly the size I was meant to be, enough for myself, surrounded by people who'd always known it. Christmas hadn't broken me after all. It had revealed what I was capable of becoming when I stopped apologizing for who I already was. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you love learning and growing like I do, you need to try audiobooks. I've got an exclusive deal with Audible. Your first month is completely free. That's access to over 500,000 titles. Zero cost to you. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.